Good afternoon. Welcome from Indiana University School of Public Health, Bloomington. This is the third installation of our 2016 webinar series on the 8 dimensions of public health. We're happy that you're joining us today. My name is Dr. Carrie Doherty, and I'm the Interim Associate Dean of Community and Global Engagement in the School of Public Health, Bloomington, and I'll be moderating this series of webinars. We constructed these webinars in an effort to really broaden the view of public health. We're hoping to connect with other academic institutions, local health departments, and you, the participants. Each webinar will occur on the fourth Wednesday of each month from 12 to 12:45. We really want these webinars to be interactive, so post your questions during the lecture, and then we'll have a moderated question and answer session at the end. Additionally, we will be offering continuing education units for these webinars. So if you're seeking those units, please contact us on the website listed, and we will help facilitate that process. And finally, live captioning is available if you click the link at the bottom of Adobe Connect. Now I'm happy to introduce the speaker for this lecture. Dr. William Ramos is an assistant professor in the Department of Recreation, Park, and Tourism Studies. He received his Bachelor of Science degree in kinesiology, his Master of Science degree in recreation, and his PhD in leisure behavior with a minor in law, all from Indiana University. He is the director of the IU Aquatic Institute, and he's been appointed to the American Red Cross Scientific Advisory Board. His research agenda focuses on how aquatic environments add to health and wellness, particularly quality of life. Today, he'll be focusing on a public health perspective of emotional wellness. With that, let's begin the lecture.
Welcome to the next webinar in the Public Health and You series sponsored by the School of Public Health, Bloomington. My name is Bill Ramos, and I'll be your host for today's session, which will be focused on emotional wellness. As a faculty member in a School of Public Health, it's a great privilege to be able to share this information with you and also provide some strategies and skills to be able to work better within the realm of emotional wellness. In order to engage fully in today's session, we'll ask a few things of you. One is, at this time, if you could find perhaps a piece of paper and a writing utensil, and also maybe have your cell phone ready for a project that we'll do near the end of the session. With that, I think we're ready to begin. I think a great place to start is to review some of our objectives for today. So talking about those objectives, one is to gain an understanding of emotional wellness. Another is to develop a system to assess your overall wellness. 3, understand the role of resilience, which we'll talk about later and define in emotional wellness. And finally, learn strategies to address emotional wellness in times of need. So I thought a good place to begin our talk today would be with an overview of wellness. And those of you who have attended previous webinars in this series may recognize the model that's presented in front of you. This is presented by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration and consists of 8 dimensions of wellness. And those include financial, social, spiritual, occupational, physical, intellectual, environmental, and finally emotional wellness, the focus of our lecture today. We can often find a variety of models by doing a simple internet search, and within those models a variety of different dimensions. What's important to remember with these models is they're a great place to kind of use as a checkpoint to check in on our wellness. Another important factor to remember is that wellness is really a fluid and moving part of our lives. It's not constant by any stretch of the imagination. So we talk about the ebb and flow of wellness. So for example, in this model of wellness, you still see some of the similar dimensions, but I like this one because it refers to the action that we really see in our day-to-day lives. So one of the things I like to do as a skill is to check in on wellness now and then. And again, some reminders that wellness is not just a moment to be achieved, but a process that requires your ongoing attention and maintenance. We all know that life isn't a constant. Every day presents new challenges, every day new opportunities, and that all dimensions involved in wellness need different levels of your attention from different times. So again, that idea of an ebb and flow through the process of wellness. So one of the ways that I like to recommend that we check in on our wellness is a method that I actually use in a course called Living Well that I teach at Indiana University to undergrads. And this process involves simply making a checklist, and here's how it works. So start with a list of the dimensions that you think are important to you. You can use the model we previously mentioned or one that you like. Take time to reflect on their meaning. What does each of these dimensions really mean to you? Then we're going to give each dimension a rating, and that rating is going to be between 0 on the low end and 10 on the high end. And much like the advice we get when taking a multiple choice exam, don't think too long. Maybe go with your gut when you're giving the score. After that, we're going to look over the list and evaluate what seems to be on the low end and might need more of our attention in the wellness spectrum, and maybe what we're doing better at and what are the strategies to keep that maintained. What's important here is to create then real strategies and goals to make changes for the better. Also, a key point to using this assessment is to make sure that you keep that rating and reevaluate yourself perhaps 4 times a year, and then you have a method to kind of reflect back and look at change. Here's an example of what a checklist might look like for an individual. So here we've used the 8 dimensions from the model mentioned earlier in the program. For this individual, it looks like spiritual wellness might need a little bit of attention along with physical wellness, and the individual can decide what that personally means to them and the goals and strategies that might help them improve those scores. And then also, depending on how much you want to look into it and how much time, maybe even some of the ones like financial wellness and occupational. Again, that idea of having everything in 10s at any point in your life would be pretty phenomenal and can be a goal, but with that ebb and flow of life, it would be tricky, and this is an example of how things kind of ebb and flow. So with our focus today on emotional wellness, we know that it's very much part of our overall mental health, and I have a great colleague here at IU who works with people with disabilities and mental illness, and he often uses the quote, "We have no health without mental health." And I really like this statement because I think it draws the importance of the dimension of emotional wellness in our overall well-being. As far as a definition, we think about it as the ability to manage our emotions in order to develop and maintain quality relationships, the ability to rebound from life's challenges as they arise, recover from setbacks that occur as they always do, accept the role of emotions as human beings in our life, how to function in society and use our emotions at appropriate levels, and really to use emotional wellness to increase an overall enjoyment and just feel good about our lives. So why should emotional wellness be on your radar? Two realms, I think, to consider. One are the psychological effects. We often think of emotional wellness as more kind of a mental game. We know effects from imbalances in our emotional state can cause a series of negative effects, and those can lead to heightened levels of stress, depression, anxiety, anger, and an overall sense of helplessness. But we also can see physiological effects, which we often don't think about, effects on the body itself from the mental components. We know from science that we can see things like higher maintained levels of cortisol. Cortisol is a chemical that's released from your body during times of heightened stress. We often think about it as that fight or flight response, and it has a purpose, but when those levels are maintained for abnormally long times, it could be detrimental to the body's system. We can see high blood pressure, heart episodes, fatigue, headaches, digestive disorders, ulcers, and even weight gain as physiological effects from issues related to emotional wellness. So one of the strategies we can use to combat problems when we have difficulties in the dimension of emotional wellness is the idea of resilience and developing resilience. The fact of the matter is we'll all face mental and emotional challenges throughout our lives. Perhaps it's fair to say that at some point in our life we'll all have a mental issue. This point's important to me because I think it helps normalize across the population the nature of mental health, which often has a negative connotation. So in defining resilience, we think of it as a step beyond coping. Coping is used and continues to be used as kind of interchangeable with resilience. But when I think of coping, I think of it more as putting up with something. Resilience really resonates with a sense of being able to have power to change something for the better. It's the ability to bounce back after coming up against a life challenge, things such as anxiety, sadness, illness, and loss that come into our everyday lives. It's the ability to maintain a positive outlook through bad times and maintain it through good times. And then being able to express your emotions appropriately to avoid becoming stuck in a negative emotional state. I'd like to share with you a tale of resilience, and I had heard this speech several years ago and it really stuck with me, and I think it personifies what we're talking about in regards to resilience. The backstory is this: famed college basketball coach Jimmy Valvano was diagnosed with terminal bone cancer in the summer of 1992. Throughout his struggle, he chose to be in a positive place emotionally and to frame every day of his life as a gift. By the spring of 1993, he lost his battle with cancer, but just 1 month before, presented a speech at the ESPY Awards with words of wisdom that I'd like to share with you now.
That's the way it goes. Time is very precious to me. I don't know how much I have left, and I have some things that I would like to say. Hopefully, at the end, I'll have something that will be important to other people too. But I can't help it. Now when I'm fighting cancer, everybody knows that. And people ask me all the time about how you go through your life and how's your day. And nothing has changed for me. As Dick said, I'm a very emotional, passionate man. I can't help it. That's being the son of Rocco and Angelina Valvano. That just comes with the territory, right? We hug, we kiss, we love. And when people say to me, how do you get through life or each day, it's the same thing. To me, there are three things we all should do every day. If we do this every day of our life, you're going to have, what a wonderful, number one is laugh. You should laugh every day. Number two is think. You should spend some time in thought. And number three is you should have your emotions moved to tears. Could be happiness or joy. But think about it. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day. You do that 7 days a week, you're going to have something special.
A powerful message from a person showing true resilience in the face of adversity. Laugh, take time to be within your own thoughts, reflect, and let your emotions move you. Important advice to remember as we move forward through our talk. So another strategy to add to your toolbox for working in the realm of emotional wellness is to develop a strong sense of self. We often call this a sense of locus of control. It really means just taking ownership of your emotions. And this doesn't mean to put them in check or to put them on a shelf and not deal with them. It just means to practice them at appropriate levels in appropriate places. And an important reminder that we all have emotions and they have a role in our lives. And I'll pose this question and perhaps we can talk about it later in the chat. But can you think of a time when you've held in an emotion when you maybe shouldn't have? For me, the first example that comes to mind is often when men attend a funeral, they don't feel that they have the ability to truly express their emotions or even cry. Another method or strategy that you can add to your toolbox for emotional wellness is to use laughter as medicine. That's right, laughter as medicine. Great things happen when we laugh. We know the system releasing cortisol, which we mentioned earlier, is inhibited. Blood pressure is reduced. We find a sense of emotional release. Following a good laugh, and hopefully you can relate, we feel the muscles relax. There's a release of endorphins, which are nature's feel-good chemical, and we see immediately following a temporary boost to the immune system. So I thought, let's give laughter a try. We'll watch a short segment. Feel free to engage and let that laughter out.
So here's how it works. Laughing increases endorphins, which travel through your bloodstream, okay? And then they go through your ventricles and they go up through the cerebral cortex. Then they travel back down into your lady antebellum, and before heading back up towards your chalupa. Then down into your cold plate. And it seems like a pretty obvious study. Laughing always feels good. It relaxes you. It puts you in a better mood. I mean, think about it. Have you ever seen a hyena in therapy? No. No. Don't even have to think about that one. Apparently laughing for 20 minutes can help, so I thought, well, we should give it a try. So we are going to now laugh for 20 minutes. Ready? Go.
So moving on to our next strategy, it may seem simple because we do it in our everyday lives, but experts tout it as very powerful in an ability to kind of reset or reframe our emotional wellness, and that's simply breathing. There are many breathing techniques that are available to use so that you can relax, refocus, and de-stress. I thought we'd take a minute and try one of my favorites. The first step is learning to be able to breathe deeply. Many of us breathe from the chest during times of stress or on a daily basis. And really, to get the benefits of this, we need to learn to breathe deep. So the first strategy is we'll have you place one hand on your chest and the other hand on your abdomen, which is located just below your rib cage and above your stomach. From here, we'll have you intake and hold several breaths, not for very long, but the goal here is to make sure that as you inhale, that you see your abdomen extend and rise and not your chest. As a matter of fact, your chest should barely move during this process. So let's try it together. We'll inhale, exhale, let's say 3 times. Ready? And if you're not used to breathing this way, it can take a little while to get used to. But again, we want that breath to be deep within the lungs and the system. From here, we'll actually talk about the breathing exercise. So we're going to take a series of breaths, and this all involves counting during the exhale and the exhale only. So after we take a breath, we're going to exhale and count 1 to ourselves. Then we'll take a second breath and add another count to 2. We'll continue to count breaths only on the exhale until we reach 5. Once you reach 5, that constitutes a cycle, and then we can repeat. It's recommended that you never count to more than 5 on an exhale, and start with maybe 2 to 3 cycles and build up from there. So if you're ready, let's take a minute and try it on your own. Remember, when you do the counts, do them in your head. You don't need to say them as you exhale. I'll go along with you. And we'll do that. Let's do it through the set of 5 counts on the exhale. Ready? Go ahead and start. All right, for me, that was up to a set of 5 counts on the exhale, and I would be ready to start another cycle. Moving forward again with our toolkit of strategies you can use to employ an emotional wellness. This includes engaging socially, putting yourself out there. We know that we're social beings by nature, so becoming isolated can really increase a sense of hopelessness. And many times, to help our emotional wellness, we just want someone to tell and share our problems with. But in order to do that, you have to remember that in order to find a good listener, you need to be a good listener as well, and make sure that it's a symbiotic relationship. Another strategy to become socially engaged is to say yes to invitations. Everyone's busy and we all have hectic lives, and many times it's very easy to just disregard invitations. But say yes to those invitations and show people that you really are interested in connecting. On the other side, you can also be the catalyst for social gatherings. If you find that opportunities aren't presenting themselves, be the person who brings people together. Another strategy is to make sure you go face-to-face. No matter how hard we've tried with technology, I'm a firm believer that nothing is more sincere and genuine as meeting each other face-to-face for authentic conversation. And then finally, put yourself out there by volunteering and being a joiner, so getting involved and participating. Another strategy from our series of strategies includes engaging all of your senses. So immerse in the beauty of nature and art. Take a walk, go to an art museum, and just have those moments with yourself. Maybe along the lines of what Jimmy V was saying, take some time to be within your own thoughts and use beauty and nature to play those out. Employ the power of music to disconnect. Use aromatherapy to engage your olfactory senses as another way to disconnect. And create something with your hands for those who tend to be more a kinesthetic type person that can really be engaging. Another strategy is to document positives. This is often called a gratitude journal. Again, in the chaos or fast pace of life, we often tend to focus on the negative things, and by writing down and revisiting the positive things, we're reminded that more times than not, we have more positive things happening in our life than negative. You can have your own positive mantra for those moments when you just need to find a place to refocus. This can be a word or a phrase, positive in nature, that you can just repeat to yourself to kind of find your grounding again. And finally, take time to do a random act of kindness. I think nothing helps to reset and refocus the soul than giving to others and making it a surprise as well. And let's not forget the connection between physical activity and wellness. This will be talked about more in depth in another webinar series focused on physical wellness. But at the School of Public Health Bloomington, since our inception, this idea of the mind-body connection has driven us. We even see it engraved outside the front of our building in the Latin phrase in corpore sano mens sano, which means sound body, sound mind. And we know when we are physically active, things happen such as endorphins are released, which increase our mood. We have a strengthened musculoskeletal system that helps us kind of ward off injury and illness. It's a mechanism for stress release by the sheer nature of physical activity, and many, many other positive benefits, which again will be discussed in another seminar. So as we come closer to the end of our talk, I did want to put a caveat in that sometimes, despite our best efforts, we may find ourselves unable to move past challenges to our emotional wellness. And after making sincere attempts and maybe employing some of the strategies we talked about today, if you still find that you're unable to find a place where you feel peace and happiness, it may be time to seek professional help from a mental health professional. So at this time, as we mentioned earlier, we'd like to do try something interactive, and it's going to be to score your emotional wellness, as we did earlier in the checklist. So what we need for you to do here is, if you have a cell phone, we'll have you open the chat function, and in the phone number box, you put in the number you see there, 37607. In the message of that text, you'll need to type in what you see at the top to the left, Kathleen Sobey, and that's an I, not a 1, 695. Once you have the phone number in and the message, you'll hit send, and then you should automatically receive an immediate message saying you're assigned to this group. Once you receive that message, all you have to do is send another text to number 37607, and in the message this time, you'll put your score where you think you're at on emotional wellness. And remember, again, our scale is 0 on the very low end, meaning it definitely needs our attention, to 10 on the high end means you think you have a good sense of control with emotional wellness in your life. We'll use the results from this anonymous poll to spur on a conversation during the chat immediately following this webinar. So to end our time today together, in summary, a few things I'd like you to take away is to make sure that you check on your wellness at regular intervals. Use the checklist we recommended, perhaps. A reminder that emotional wellness needs your attention like all the other dimensions of wellness. Emotional wellness plays out mostly through our psychology, but it's important to remember with that mind-body connection that we also have physiological outcomes as well from emotional wellness. We need to develop skills and strategies to learn resilience as a key to success. And we need to employ strategies that empower a locus of control so we can find that sense of peace and happiness in our lives. That concludes our time together today. Thank you for your time and attention. Hopefully we'll see you in a few moments at the chat following the webinar. Thank you.